Research Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Ren, founder of Diverse Research Now. And today you will hear the voice of Jennifer Hairston. Jennifer is a dynamic and purpose-driven people and culture leader with over a decade of experience at the intersection of people strategy, organizational culture, and execution. Jennifer blends insight, empathy, and execution in every interaction, whether she's driving strategic innovations, leading cross-functional collaborations, or building cultures of belonging from the inside out. Jennifer is doing some great work. And I am really super excited to talk with her today. So let's get started. How are you doing today, Jennifer?
I'm good. Thank you so much, Dr. Ren, for having me. It is an absolute honor and pleasure to be here with you today. So thank you. How are you?
I'm so good and I'm so happy. This is my passion, this podcast. So I love bringing new voices onto the platform to talk about something super important, which is inclusivity in research. And I know that you have been in this field working with a lot of major companies in this field. I am so appreciative to hearing what you have to say today. Tell us a little bit about yourself, the work that you've been doing and the work that you're doing now. Like, what are you looking to do in the future? Everything.
Everything.
Yes.
So I have been in corporate America for a very, very long time. Wow. And this is the first year where I've actually been able to kind of take a step back, and whether it was my decision or in my plan, it was very much so needed. And so I have, like you said, worked with major companies, have done a lot of intense work, and have built a lot of intense work. And so taking a moment to kind of breathe is great. So born and raised in San Diego, I have been very fortunate enough to have had my career stay in San Diego, obviously works cross-functionally and doing all of those things, but I have been able to stay within my own community, which is great.
Awesome.
The one thing about me that is very unique to my story is the work that I do when it comes to DEI, HR work, community give back is not new to me. So I am very fortunate to have had a mother and have a mother that has been doing this work my entire life. And so it is almost like picking up the baton where she left off. And so I remember a lot of times being like, I want to go outside and play with my friends. And my mom was like, no, you got to follow programs, or no, we're going to this event, we're going here. So
look. Great example. She was a great example. Okay.
So I have been very blessed to be able to see this work in a lens that I didn't necessarily understand, but now that I have been doing it, it very much so ties and makes sense now. And so I obviously tell her a lot. I'm so thankful for you making sure that we went to these things and understood what it was, because I didn't know the impact that it was going to have in my career. I didn't know what I wanted to do when I grew up. I didn't know what I wanted to do for a very long time. Like most people, you graduate from high school, you go to college. I was only going to college to stay on my parents' benefits. And my mom was like, you know, if you don't want to go to school, you got to get a job. So corporate America, here I come, right?
Come on. Same thing I said to mine.
Well, as I started to work and get work experience, so I spent majority of my actual corporate America career in the financial industry, which was 10 years, which is a very long stint, and started from the bottom, started answering phones. I actually was scanning papers, which was removing the staples and doing all of those things. And then slowly but surely started to climb that ladder. As I started to build relationships, as I started to have conversations, I was assigned to being on a project to help some people move. And in that process, I was like, I think I want to be a project manager. I love these wins. I love getting in. I love getting out. I love supporting people, but they ain't got to directly report to me.
Right.
I love this.
That direct reporting is a whole nother level of, I never wanted that myself either.
Right. So I was like, I love this. It's only for a duration and then I'm out. And so I was like, I'm going to go back to school. So I decided to go back to school. I got my degree. I got my specialization in project management and just took off from there. And I was like, great, we're here, we're thriving. And then I got a team out of nowhere. I got a team of 20, which was 15 contractors and 5 full-time employees. I came to work one morning and they were like, I was like, wait, who? Me?
Whoa. Okay. No. Now that's a lot of people to manage.
a lot of people in the middle of doing one of my very first major projects. And so I was like,
Wow.
so how are we going to navigate this? Because I'm
Yeah.
one person, right? And you know
Yeah.
what contractors, one day they there, one day they gone.
Yep.
So also trying to manage your coworkers, trying to manage personalities, trying to manage all of those things while also trying to run my project. And also going to school full time because I also was still getting my degree at the time.
Come on, girl, you sound like me. I be doing all of those things at one time.
And be like, now I wonder why I ain't got no sleep. Now I wonder why I ain't got time to do nothing else. And so I look back on my career now and I say to myself, I know I was not a good leader because I was not prepared.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
There,
Wait a minute. Why did you say that?
so I think just because in my mind I had myself somewhere else and myself was not there. And
Uh,
also as I reflect in my career and just in this work that I have done, there's a big difference of having a boss and having a leader.
sure is. Sure
And
is.
I had a boss. I didn't have a leader.
Okay. Okay.
And having a boss versus having a leader and just being
Mm-hmm.
like, you basically you have a boss that says you need to check the boxes, right? To get your
Mm-hmm.
increase,
Mm-hmm.
to
Mm-hmm.
pass on your
Mm-hmm.
performance review. That's having a boss.
Yeah.
Having a leader saying, let me coach you, let me mentor you, let me guide you. Let me first ask you, this is something that you actually even want to do. I wasn't even asked the question.
Right.
I was like, so
Just
having
giving
a
duties to do, tasks to do, and
correct.
not even
And
caring how you
in a
felt.
very hostile already team environment just because of the leader that was there previously.
Mm.
And so I wasn't prepared to deal with that because I was still essentially kind of growing up myself. I had grown up in the financial industry, so I was still very much so growing up in myself and having to manage the dynamic of people was a
Mm.
lot. And so fast forward, we do all the things. I manage the team. I figure out how to be a good boss, not a leader, a good boss. I figure out
Okay.
how to do that. But I figure out how to make conversations. I figure out
Okay.
how to still be an advisor and being a coach and all of those things. And when it was time, because my entire team was wiped out because our section of our work got given to a third party, it was like, whew, I can exhale.
Yeah. You
That
was
was a lot.
actually happy. You was okay with that, huh?
I was perfect.
Because it was like it was a lot for you.
And that was
Mm.
10 years that I had given that organization.
Wow.
And
Wow.
so I was like, I can pause,
Hmm.
I can finish school
Yeah.
finally. I
Yeah.
can do all the things. And within 4 months, I got the call to go to Illumina. And that was because of the power of connections that I had with somebody that I worked at the bank. She called me
Yeah.
and said, I know this isn't what you're exactly looking for, but I think it is a start in the right direction. And I was
Okay.
like, let's just have the conversation. And it was for a contracting role. And so
Okay.
I said, that's still great because I can still finish school. I
Yeah,
can
because
do
you
that.
have control over your schedule and as a contractor, yes.
And I don't have to manage people, which is
That's
even
right.
better.
That's right. Come in and come out like you were saying.
Correct. Do my 8 hours. And so it was great. So I went there. I was with an amazing team, was
Mhm.
with a small team, but we were mighty, was in HR, learning and development, all of the things. And when I got to Illumina is when I got a leader. She's very
Ah.
much still one of my very, very closest friends, one of my
Oh,
mentors, and someone that I look to advice on a regular basis.
awesome.
I got a leader, which changed
Yes.
how I showed up as a leader,
Yes.
continue to manage through my career. So
Yes.
one thing about me is that I hold on to those connections. I hold on to those learned lessons just because I look back at my career and I say, probably if you ask any of those people that reported to me, they're probably like, she didn't know what she was doing. And they ain't lying because I didn't. But I very much so pride myself on now I am better. I am
Okay.
better. I am proud of where I'm at because I
Yes.
know what I needed going through that phase of my life, I didn't have. And
Mhm.
I know when I interact with my direct reports or anyone else that is trying to navigate this treacherous time, is if
Yeah,
I can't do it for you, I know somebody in my network that
I
can.
can.
Because
Yeah.
I don't want to not give you the best version of myself, but so much of my work that I do requires for me to give the best version of myself. And at
Mm.
times it is very hard to be able to sugarcoat and water down what I'm going through because at the end of the day, I'm still a Black woman
Yeah.
that goes through layoffs, that goes through tough conversations, that
Yep.
goes through personal life situations. But the world doesn't want to see that. The world wants to see the pretty, polished version of me that is well spoken, that is talking about all the things that I'm going to do and can do and how I can make you better.
Yeah,
That's
you're
what they
still
want.
living in your community. You're still in your community, this community that has been the topic of conversation, right? When it
Right.
comes to inclusivity and
Correct.
equity. And so you deal with that yourself. But then
Right.
you're sitting inside an organization or a company.
Correct. Well, I try to
So,
figure out how I can best show it for myself, because at the end of the day, I think the one thing about this work and kind of being in this community is people don't share with you the kind of the bad side of things, because you feel like, oh, everyone else is saying that you're great, but then at times your community feels like you're selling out on them. So trying to figure out how are you going
that's
to show up for everyone, because I'm not the first generation, right? I'm not the first generation to go to college. My parents have been married for 43 years, all of the things, right? So I'm not the first generation when it comes to my family. But then reminding myself that I'm doing this stuff for my community. So therefore, the racism, the microaggressions, the submissiveness that people have had to go through in their companies, they don't have to go through them anymore. And I think that's what people tend to forget about. I'm still a Black woman. Like, that doesn't change. I don't get to walk into an office or get to walk into a program and say, well, I'm going to hang this up on a coat rack. I don't get to do
right.
that.
Right.
And so it's hard, and it forever will be hard to make everyone happy, because somebody's always going to be disappointed. Period.
I agree with you. And I think the answer and the way to deal with that, and something I've had to deal with as being a leader as nonprofit of diverse
Right.
research now, is like being very clear on who your focus is and who
Correct.
you are serving
Correct.
for you.
For me.
That's so important, to understand who you are serving. And that has been key for me.
Right. And I think that's the part that people tend to forget, because everybody's like, well, why aren't you serving me? And I'm like, I'm not about the me right now. I'm about the lasting impact that's going to outlive me, that's going to
That's right.
outlive the next generation, because I'm a product of that. The work that my mother has done in the 80s and 90s is a product of everything that she has done, which is I am a product of her, which is why I'm
That's
doing the work that
right.
I'm doing now.
There's no way that you can forget about that.
No.
Just because you're in this space, you were able to get to this space. And
Correct.
yes, I'm so happy you're there because we need you there. But there's no way to forget about what your mother taught you.
Correct. And
And
which she
and
had to
and
go through.
in your community. Yeah.
Correct. And that doesn't change. And I think that is forever will be the foundation of who I am and who I will
Mhm.
continue to be.
Mhm.
It will not make everyone happy. It will not check all the boxes, but it is authentic to who I am. And I know that there's a struggle, people trying to maintain their authenticity when they move through this work. And that I will not change for anybody. I will not
Yes.
question my morals or values to appease a moment, because that's literally what most of this work is. People want something done in a moment, because as you can see, overnight,
Mhm.
all of it changed. It all
Mhm.
disappeared for a moment of time. And then
Yeah.
everybody's like, well, we're going to have to walk it back. So I don't do work for a moment in time. I do work to make sure that it is embedded in the foundation of what you're going to do going forward. That's a big
Yeah.
difference.
And what you're talking about was for a moment is these DEI initiatives and
Correct.
talk, and how that has kind of been reeled back, right?
Walk back.
We've
It's been
seen it in
walked back.
yeah, we've been seeing it in so many areas, and definitely for research. And I was on a call today, on a conference today, and the question was, how do we reimagine DEI? Because the work is still important.
It is.
So, how do we reimagine? For me, reimagining means we have to remember that DEI is really literally just health equity, and that
Correct.
everybody should have a chance to get the health, get to this health outcome that
Right.
favorable for them. Everybody should have a chance to do that,
Right.
given the tools to do that.
Absolutely.
Everybody should have that chance, that opportunity. So for me, that's what it means. What about you? Like, how do we, in this space? That's a great question. I don't even think that was on our list to ask, but that question came up in my spirit. So,
Right.
and that was from my conference I was on this morning. Like, how do we reimagine health equity as you are working in these companies, in these major companies that are reeling back DEI? How do we, and we know that it's health equity, how do
Right.
we
I
reimagine?
think for me, the moment that you say to me, you have to reimagine, that means you weren't doing it right in the first place.
Ah, mm,
Because that means you did it because you had to check a box, and now you're trying to do it
yep,
so therefore you can continue to check that box. And so I have an issue with that. So
yep,
my question usually is when I go into organizations and I say, how do you want to embed this?
yeah,
Because that's very different, because when you embed it in every single thing that you do, top to bottom, you
yeah,
don't have to reimagine, you don't have to change words, you don't have
yeah,
to mix words, you don't have to do anything. You
yeah.
show up and say,
Like,
this is part of our everyday
that's
practice.
right.
This is how we show up. And a lot of these companies have had to that I personally see, although we still want to do our DEI, but we know that we have to change all the words so it doesn't say all these things. So what people have done now is call it people and culture. But if you go in and read the job description, it's DEI work.
People and culture. That's why. Okay. Girl, thank you for telling me that, because I didn't know. I didn't know that. For me, again, for me, it's just about equity for everyone. Like, I'm just saying, hey, we need to be equitable, you know what I mean? But
Right.
people and culture. Okay. I'm happy.
But I
I
think,
will pay attention to that now.
and I think going back to what you just said, equitable, people think
Mhm.
that has to do strictly with money. And it has
No,
nothing to do with that.
no.
And I think people tend to use that word as a clutch, as we do with so many other buzzwords that we use, and it has
Okay.
nothing to do with money. It is important that your employees are paid what they deserve because, listen, we live in California. Like
Yeah, of course.
we know how that goes. That's off the rip, right? But it's not about that. DEI has everything to do with the entire end-to-end process. That means when I walk into a room,
Mhm.
I'm not only acknowledged as everybody else is acknowledged, but when I have something to say, you're listening with the intent of not responding, but you're listening with the intent of getting understanding. That is
Yeah.
very different.
Yeah.
And if you don't understand something, let's have a conversation about it. And
Yeah.
in my career, I didn't know what I know now going through my career about some of the microaggressions and all those things, because I just feel like living in California and living kind of where I've grown up and all these other kind of things, I didn't have to deal with those things until as I continue to progress in my career and start to do
Right.
the work that I was doing. And I remember in the last couple of years, especially when DEI has blown up to the way that it has, and me going through certain situations and some of my employers not understanding why I felt a certain way. Some of
Mm.
my employers not understanding, well, why are you so up in arms around this? Well, how would you feel if somebody patted you on the head and told you that you're doing a good job as a full-fledged grown woman?
What I hear is you need to know that you are valued.
Correct.
You don't need to be talked down to.
No.
You need to be, because I also feel like sometimes in these spaces, we're giving this work or these projects that that they feel just because of our skin color sometimes.
Most of the time.
And they think, oh, well, we're keeping her busy. That's good. That's like, but that's
No.
not really,
It's
that's
not it.
not right.
And I think it's so much easier to do that. It's so much easier for you to say, listen, we're going to let you go, but listen, thank you for checking all the boxes. Because now we can say, we can go on our website and we can go in interviews and say, we've done all these things.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
as we know, with this next generation that's coming into the workforce, they're like, okay, yes, you can throw all this money at me, but I want you to put your money where your mouth is. I don't want to just join the ERG. What are you actually doing to make sure that this employee resource group is actually a part of your everyday business? What is it that what is that actual time?
Yeah.
If you have a product, how do I actually know people within my community are actually have access to your product and are getting the same care and the same tenderness that your other patients are getting? I think back to this as I was at Illumina and we were starting to do STEM kits and all these other kind of things. And I think to myself, it's important for your community to understand, because as you know, once you go out to communities, you get one chance. One.
Yeah. Yeah. Because once you have a bad experience,
That's it.
that's your reputation is done.
Correct. And I think that what happens is you want to send in all of these bells and whistles that are not tied back to that community. The community wants to know, how is this going to impact me and what
Yeah.
can I do? Right. And I think that's the important part, is that you can't go into these communities and expect for them to understand research works. That doesn't work that way. Like, you got to
No.
speak to them like, listen, you take this is what's going to happen.
Come on. Come on. And this is exactly how I speak with it's in the community. I like to share. Our community sometimes don't listen until they know like the repercussions behind our
Correct.
actions and the bad things that happen behind our actions, or the bad things that happens behind what happened to them. So a lot of times, one of the main things I do in my presentations a lot of times is I share consequences and like drugs that have come to market that are less effective in the Black and brown communities. I share that information so they can see, like, hey, you probably taking this drug. But
Yeah.
you know what? This drug was not tested on nobody that looked like you. And it
At
don't
all.
work as well for you. And that's a problem because we don't need more drugs like that. I really try to break it down.
And that's important because that's the information that when you listen to the commercials, they say, they do this and then they speed through
Yeah.
all the side effects. I'm like,
Yeah.
no, 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 lead with that.
Yeah.
And then talk about, but that's the thing about it is as we listen, just like with food, right? We eat with our eyes first. We see it and then be like, oh, that don't look good. I'm not about to eat that. But that looks good. I'm about to eat it. But sometimes it can still look good and be like, this was so nasty.
Yeah. Yeah.
We don't see and hear all of those things. We just hear and see, I want to get better, or I want to save my
Right.
mother, or I want to save my child. But then people on the other end of it that put these things on market don't think about that because at the end of the day, we are
Yeah.
all human. We have all come from some kind of lineage, some kind of lineage. So my question that I always say to researchers and doctors is, would you want your grandmother taking this? Would you want your grandmother, your mother, your father, whoever that is, that you know that the testing was not done correctly, but you just gonna say put it on market because you want to be able to get that money?
Yeah.
No.
Good question. I love that because that's whoever's listening to this, that's a good community question. It's anyone in
Right.
the community that's going to see their doctor. That's a good question to ask. Like,
Right. It's always like
ask.
you pause for the cause because you have to think about once you start walking down a certain path when it comes to your health, it is very hard to come back from that. It's very hard to even find people that are going to walk with you on that path and that are going to be a safe space for you and that are going to continue to
Mhm.
advocate for you.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then to have that happen is just like, so how do we get back from this? And then it's almost too late to come back from it.
Yeah.
And that's honestly with just the work that I do within the communities, which I do. This is on the patient advocacy side, right? Think about the work that
Yes.
I do within just corporate spaces. That's the same thing. There's
Mhm.
always consequences for your actions, whether they're good, bad, ugly, and or different. And most people are not prepared to have those kind of conversations or deal with those kind of rhetorics. They're just ready to just be like, yeah, it didn't work, let's move on. No, that's not how it works.
Yeah, that's the kind of answer the next question that I was going to ask you. I was going to ask about where does listening and truly hearing people play the role? That's where the role that what we just talking about. How does it
Right.
play in advancing inclusion? I mean, it really is about researchers, doctors, advocates really hearing the challenges that
Correct.
people are having and addressing those challenges, not just coming to talk to them about your agenda, what
Correct.
you need, what you need to get across at that moment. Like really listen to people.
Exactly. And I think for me, especially when I talk to leaders and in the work that I do, I always lead with the question is, are you willing and ready to receive feedback? That's number one, if I have any for them. And
Yeah.
number two, are you listening with the intent of getting understanding? Or are you listening with the intent of responding?
Man, I'm telling you, it's time for us to respond because I do feel like the research world has been doing so much talking. I'm in there too. I do a lot of talking as well. I think you have to keep talking about it, right? For
Correct.
us to really see change. I think you have to keep talking about it, but not just talking about it. We have to respond and put
Correct.
solutions into place. I'm definitely very much a solution-based person, and so the response. I love that you said that.
And I think that's what people need to understand is we could talk all day long, right? You and I can stay on
Yeah.
this phone for hours and talk about
Yeah.
anything and everything. But when you really think about the conversation that you're trying to have with the patient, with the colleague, with the team member, with your boss, whoever that is, with the mentor, with whomever, are you having that conversation with the intent of listening so you can respond to every single thing that they have? Or are you sitting there listening with the intent of let me gain understanding of how I need to take accountability? And at the end of the day, the
Mhm.
accountability that I have realized through this work, because I have done wrong things, I have not
Mhm.
been
Mhm.
perfect.
Mhm.
The accountability is for me. The
Yeah,
accountability is not for the other person sitting on the other side of that conversation. And
that
that's a
makes
big difference
sense.
because it goes back to what you said earlier about having confidence when you walk into these rooms. The more that we continue to do self reflection and continue to grow on our own, the more powerful we become.
I like that, the self-reflection piece to this, because sometimes people are going to ask you questions or need you to respond right away. And
Yeah,
they're going to need you to respond in a certain way that what if you can't respond that way? And what if your hands are tied? Yeah, that's a real thing, right?
it
But
is.
if you're self-reflecting and really addressing them in the way that you would want somebody to address you,
Right.
And do what you can do. Like you mentioned, if I can't help you, I can find someone, maybe I could connect you with somebody else, which is
Absolutely.
another reason why we try to, one of the things that we're working on the DRN is we're working on creating a resource list, a list of resources for people to go to. If we can't help you, we want to lead you to where you could be helped. So I love that self-reflection piece because I think that's how we stay focused.
Correct.
On the mission.
Correct. That's how, and for me, nobody else has to know that.
Yeah.
That is a you thing that no one can ever take away from you. We do so much for organizations. We do so much for our community, but what is it that we're doing that no one can ever take away from us? And one of the things that I have done, which I'm sure you have done, is no matter if these companies keep you, let you go, flip you and reverse you, the one thing they cannot take away from you is the education that you continue to get.
Come on.
And that is the one, listen, you can take the title, you can take the money, you can do all those things, but me walking out of here with my head held high, with all the self-accountability that I have done and the self-awareness that I have done and the education that I have received and that I will continue to receive, that you can never take away from me.
No. I mean, that's why for me, education is so important. That's why I'm so big on it, even with my work, educating people, because that's one thing that people can't take away from you. Once you've heard it, once you have, now you can use it. Now you can use it to your advantage. You know
the
what I mean?
Power of knowledge, man.
I mean,
the power
really,
of knowledge.
really, really powerful. Like, because if you don't know, you don't know.
Correct.
If you don't know, what you gonna do?
Correct. And I think that's what people have to understand is when, especially me being tied into the HR world, at the end of the day, HR professionals are there for the business. When you come in here with knowledge, power, data, facts, listen, we can't waver from that.
Yeah.
You can't be like, oh, well, no, we can't. Because at the end of the day, when you come in here knowing what you need to know and you have the power of that knowledge, we cannot waver away from that. And I think that is the one thing that we have to listen. We deal in emotions every day. And the one thing that I received from one of my bosses down the line of my many ones that I have had, not necessarily a leader, was he told me you get 10 seconds of panic and then you got to respond. 10 seconds does a lot because in your mind, you go through every single thing. And I'm like, okay, I'm on. Because like you said, there's certain things in my journey where I wish that I could have paused to process myself before responding. But I had to respond. I had to. And I said, okay, as they're talking to me, right? I'm listening with the intent of getting understanding because in my mind, I'm going through my 10 seconds of panic and then start to put pen to paper to figure out how I'm going to show up. And in those moments, like I've said before, I didn't show up the best way that I needed to show up because it was in a response of me having to respond and not in a way that was authentic and real for myself, but because of the organization.
Yeah.
And at sometimes, gonna be completely transparent, have completely blanked out on what I said. And I've had to ask my friends, like, did I sound okay? Like, did I still sound like me in the message, even though the message may not have been mine? And they're like, you did what you had to do. And I'm like, okay, then I can breathe.
Yeah. I feel like that's common when you are a purpose-driven person and you're doing purpose-driven work. And I feel like that's common. Sometimes you can, like, somebody can come at you and you kind of throw you off.
Yes.
But it's authentic.
It is. Because you become an empath.
Don't even worry about it because you are authentically you. And you have the heart for this work. And so your response, even if you feel like it's like, oh man, like I'm panicking, like even if you feel like, don't even feel like that. Your answer is going to always be the right answer, I think.
And I'm grateful for that. I'm grateful for you saying that because as you know, in the moments you think that it's all wrong and you think, well, did I give that person what they needed? And then you do that spiral. I do that spiral in my mind as I'm riding home because I become an empath because I've had to take on so many other people's emotions.
We're the same in a lot of ways. I'm like, this conversation, like we're similar.
And so at night when I'm going home, it's that quiet time. It is, I don't want to hear anything because I've taken on so many other emotions while people don't realize that I'm still a human and dealing with my own. Because I have to leave that at the door, especially, it was different in COVID because in COVID, you can kind of be like, I'm gonna get off the screen, but going back into the office in an office environment, it was like, I feel like it was a never ending door. And it was like, I'm not gonna get anything done besides conversations. And that's fine. But then I've now taken on all of that. And I've had to figure out in my life, what does that look like to be able to walk away from that? And my new kind of obsession that I have taken on is kickboxing. That is where I can be in
Good.
for an hour.
Yeah.
You put those gloves on. I can't check my phone.
Yeah.
Respond back to anybody.
I love it.
I've been able to decompress in an environment where I don't have to show up perfect.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I
I
just got to be
love
able to
that.
show up with my gloves on and do the work.
Yeah. I know you had talked about your mom in the beginning. Is she who have inspired your commitment to really building, like making sure to, show up for you and making sure that the companies that you work in are building inclusive spaces? Like, is that who inspired you or is it something
So
else?
there's a couple of things. I would say my amazing group of friends. I have been very blessed with the group of people. And I wouldn't even say a network. I would say these are the friends that I can truly show up who I am and don't need me to be perfect. That is why I continue to do this work because I'm like, they're like, Jennifer would be needy, but I'm like, I don't want to do it. So they're very much so kind of that meter check for me. I would also say another part of the reason why I do this work is because of my leader that I had at Illumina, which is Lori Chapa. I'm going to say her name. I love her to death and she knows it.
Oh.
She saw something in me that I didn't see in myself, and she
Uh-huh.
didn't force it. She said, I'm going to walk this walk with you together. I'm
Yeah.
not going to shove you in there. I'm going to make this walk with you together.
I love it. We need that.
You need it.
Oh my
And
goodness.
she has been an advocate from me to this very day, even though we don't even work at the same companies. And I remember when she left Illumina, and I remember I cried. Never cried about a leader leaving. I'm usually, most people are like, bye, thank goodness. I cried because
Yeah.
she was such and is such an integral part of what I do. And to have a leader like that in a time that was just so uncertain, and
Mm.
even when she left and I started to really start to climb the DEI ladder, start to do that stuff in that space, I still was calling her to be like, do you think I should do this? And she was like, Jennifer, you are called to do this work. And I was like, but I don't remember receiving that phone call. And I would say at the foundation of why I find purpose and why I find meaning in the work that I do would be because of my parents.
Yeah.
My mom has always, as long as I have known, has been an advocate for my dad and everything that he has gone through. And watching my mom be an advocate for him as
Yeah.
he goes through the things that he's gone through was something that I would never and will never forget. And my mom is at the root of why I do what I do. And my dad is at the very much so the stem of why I continue to do that.
Yeah.
My father actually passed away unexpectedly in December.
Oh, I'm
And
so sorry.
I watched my mom continue to be an advocate for him up until he took his very last breath. And in that moment, as frazzled as everyone was, because I was extremely close to my dad, in that moment, it just became like this gust of wind that reminded me I have to continue to keep going because he was so proud.
Yeah.
And my mom just being like, Jennifer, we got to keep going. And I'm like, and as much of a moment as much as chaos was happening at the end of the year, I could have retreated. I could have been like, no more. I don't want to do this. And what I did was the total opposite. I went back to school. I'm actually getting my MBA right now, doing all the things that I needed to do because I know that this would make him proud. And
Yes.
so when I think about the work that you do, when I think about my community, when I think about all of the things that have to continue to happen, my dad will forever be there. And I don't have to text him pictures. I don't have to call him. He now can walk this journey with me at
Yeah.
all.
He's right next to you. He's with you.
He is.
So you can, yeah, you can just
Absolutely.
open
So I
up.
would say those are the three buckets of when someone says, Jennifer, what makes you Jennifer? Those are it.
Yeah. Yeah. In your bio that you sent us, you say joy is always part of the plan.
Yes.
What? I love that. So I want to know, how do you intentionally cultivate joy and balance in the midst of like this work that you're doing? I mean, it's very demanding.
It is.
It's purpose driven, it's demanding. How do you find that joy?
I think, especially for the joy part, I have found joy in some of the most difficult moments of my life.
Okay.
Watching my dad pass away,
Yeah.
where we went through the pandemic when George Floyd was murdered. And when George Floyd murdered, that's when my career really took off in DEI. I was asked to create our first Black ERG in the midst.
That's when it all started. Yeah.
Yeah. In the midst of all of this happening.
Mm-hmm.
And that is when all these connections and relationships and conversations started to happen. And I said, the joy in this for me is that I know whatever I do now is going to outlive me. That means whoever's sitting in my seat when I am gone and flying away somewhere very, I know that somebody is not going to have to go through a struggle that I went through to have a seat. And that joy, when I think about all of the chaos and I'm thinking about how I should have, how I could have, and when I'm thinking about all those things, I take a step back and I have a really, really good friend of mine that is a coach, that is an advocate, that is all of these things. She's absolutely phenomenal. She's the person that I go to that grounds me. She's the person that's like, Jennifer, let's get it all out. Okay, now how are we going to move forward from here?
Yeah.
And it is important to have people like that in your life because that's what brings the balance back into place.
Yeah.
Because then if you don't have people like that in your network, it just ensues chaos because it is so much to go through on a regular basis. I mean, I'm not even in corporate right now. When I have to listen to the news because somebody's going to call me asking me for advice about how they should address this with their employees, I'm like, since I'm not on payroll, can you call me back in about 10 minutes so I can figure out how I'm going to answer this?
Right.
And so the joy for me in every single thing that I do is that this is bigger than me.
Yeah.
It's bigger than me. It will always be bigger than me. I have so many people in my network and within my group that have been doing this work way longer than I have. And probably, I mean, people will get mad at me if I say this, probably well more qualified than I am to do this work. But I mean, listen, they've been doing it for a long time. And we have been able to come together to balance each other out. When normally, when you get into this oversaturated market of work, people tend to just be like, well, I could do it better and I could, but we've come together. We have united on a front that is more powerful and so much stronger. And the thought of innovation and conversation of how we can help each other has been phenomenal. And this is why if I can't get in that door, somebody in my network is going to get in that door. And that is the joy. That is why I continue to do the work that I do, because just the other day, I just made a connection with two women the other day, two different sides of the earth, two different sides of the spectrum, but guess what? Made that connection. And now they're like, we're going to figure out how we can support each other. And so it's that power of connection. It's that power of saying, you don't have to struggle. Listen, we're going to do 2 steps instead of 10.
Yeah. It's so important to build, as we're serving the community, to build a community for ourselves.
Absolutely.
We can't do it alone. No way. It's too big. Sometimes I'll sit and I'll think about the work that I do and I'm like, wow, like this is such a huge thing that we're trying to get to. Correct. No way I could do it by myself. And so that's why I will never feel competition with any other, person in this field. Definitely not another Black person in this field, because I need you.
Right. But the unfortunate part is society has taught us that. Society has said, listen, you two Black women can't be in the same room doing the same thing.
Not true.
Not true. Because we have, like, when you think about 300 plus Black women that are out of jobs right now, the amount of us that have come together and supported each other when we're like, I cannot do this. Now, I will tell you this. I lost my job and my father in the same week.
Wow.
Right. My position was eliminated on a Monday and my dad passed away on that Thursday. And let me tell you something, within that week, I'm already getting calls about how we can get you. And I'm like, because I didn't want everybody in my business, because then people start to use things like that against you. And so that's why it almost goes back to part of who I am. I tell people all the time, don't ask people to trust you, ask people to respect you. Because trust is a lot to ask somebody from, because you never know what somebody's history's been. You never know what somebody's been through. So for you to ask somebody to trust you and then you let them down, no, ma'am. That's also why I tell people, don't say you want to be your authentic self when you go to work, because they're not ready for that.
No, trust is built. So that's right. You can't be using that word just
very loosely. I'm like, listen, I may not know you from a hole in the wall, but listen, I can respect you for walking out of that house with the mismatched pants, prints, and everything else. I can respect you for that. Yeah. I don't trust you. I will never trust you to dress me, but I can trust
good
analogy. But I got this.
I love that analogy. Yeah.
But I respect you for doing that. And so that is, in that moment, I was like, I know I need to find a new job, but I'm also showing up on these interview calls and I'm showing up in these conversations about people asking me to speak and do things about all of this political climate that we're getting ready to walk through. And I'm like, I have personal things I have to go through. I had to take a step back. And that was very hard because, as Black women, Our thing is to keep going. When
Yeah.
all else fails, we gonna keep going. And I think my leader that I was sharing with you about earlier, she said, Jennifer, you have no less than 6 things always going on at a time. And I was like, she never lies. I really don't.
Again, we're the same.
Right.
Yeah.
And this is the first time in my career that I only have 2 things going on, which is school
Okay.
and now figuring out what I want to do next for me.
Good.
And that's it. And that really just really balls up into a bigger bucket of I'm taking care of myself because I
Look,
have gone through
I'm
a lot.
huge on self-care, girl. So
Right.
I'm huge on self-care.
And it came at the height of my career. This change and all of this happened literally in the height in my career. And let me tell you something, when they say they can give it, then take it away,
Real quick.
that, just like
Real
that,
quick.
the work that I have done still outlives me being there. The conversations that I have still outlives me being there. But guess what? I'm still continuing on. And I will continue on because there's a legacy that I have to build for myself because it's the pride that I take in the work that my mom has done and the proudness that it takes from what my dad has seen me be able to do in the time that he was here. And that is what will continue to keep me going. Now, when I come home and scream and be like, Lord Jesus, help me. Nobody has to know that because I will be able to show up in the best form that I can when I present myself. And so it's a journey. And
Yeah.
as Nipsey Hussle will say, may he rest in peace.
Mm-hmm.
The marathon continues, right? This is
Yeah.
the race. It is very much
Yeah.
so a marathon. It is very
For
much
sure.
so something that we will have to continue to do better at, something that we're going to have to continue to learn at as you do the work that you do and the work that I do. We're continuously learning because something new happens all the time.
I do agree with you. We're constantly, and we have to be like that. I feel like it's important to be flexible and evolving
Absolutely.
constantly because there's
Absolutely.
always something. Like there's
Absolutely.
always, like we have to be ready. You know what I
Correct.
mean? Just to keep it moving.
Right.
Because of all the things that are going on, and like you
Absolutely.
mentioned, the political climate, we have to still, for me, it's important. And I was at another conference last week and we talked about this to stay solution based because
Correct.
I lead into the last question so we can get out of here. But again, solution based. And even though everything is going on, all this stuff is going on, I never want to leave the conversation on a negative or
Yeah.
leave the
Absolutely.
conversation at a low point because
Right.
we're looking to the hills, okay, girl? Like,
Okay. Yes.
look, I look to the hills from which come my help.
Absolutely.
And so we're gonna always look to the hills and find what the solution is gonna be and how we're gonna
Correct.
move forward. So that's my last question for you is what excites you most about your future? And hopefully you will stay in like this inclusivity research, like cultural
Yeah.
change where I don't know if that's where you'll stay. But for you, like what excites you about the future, even in this space that we're moving into?
I think what excites me the most is to know how powerful I am.
Mhm.
At a time where I could have been like, I'm gone. The amount of strength and power that comes within heartache and loss is something that is endless for me and
Mm.
excites me in that. And also knowing that with time comes change.
Mhm.
And we know with the collectives, we know with people that, you can't be hidden anymore. If you believe it, if it matters to you, if you want to stand on that,
Yeah.
you got to speak up
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
it's not just about us doing that.
Yeah.
And for me, as a leader and as a practitioner in this work, I always tell people it is not my job to come in here and tell you that you have to change.
Yeah.
Ignorance is a bliss. I'm not about to sit at that table with you.
Yeah.
Up to you to figure out how you want to change.
Yeah.
And like I said, change with time comes change. And as our community and as a society and as a nation continues to see that this chaos that we're going through right now is a moment in time. It is not permanent. And I think that is as hard as it is, as someone that lives and breathes every single day in this earth, it is hard to say that. But it's in conversations like this, like you and I are having, that reminds me of that. It is just a moment in time because there's wins that are happening every single day that the community may not be aware of. But what excites me is knowing that we're going to continue to fight because we know how to fight. Because listen, we stay ready so we don't have to get ready.
I know that's right.
That's why we always have a solution.
Come on. I know that's right. And I was just talking to my friend yesterday, and one of the a saying that I say often, of course, going back to the Bible again, because that's where live. This too shall pass. I just said this to her yesterday, and that's something that I hold on to when I'm going through difficult times. So we'll leave the conversation there. But, for our listeners, know that this will pass. We are going to get through this.
Yeah.
We're going to
And we're going to be better.
We're going to come out more, like you said. I love that you said that you're excited about in understanding how powerful you are. These are the times and the moments where you realize how powerful you are.
You do.
You do. In those hard times.
Correct.
Yeah.
Also very important to know that you have a support system that you can lean on. And it is very, very important, especially going through difficult times, that we know that can happen at the blink of an eye. Is to know that you got a support system that is going to essentially do that trust fall, right? They ain't gonna walk away the moment you start to look back.
Yeah.
Everybody's gonna collectively come in and support you.
Yeah.
And I feel like that is why I feel so powerful, is because I have that.
Yeah.
And that matters.
I love that. I love it. Thank you so much, Jennifer. Oh my goodness. I feel like this has been one of the most inspiring conversations. And I don't even know if I knew that was about to happen, but I'm so appreciative.
Of course.
I
love it.
These are the type of conversations we need to have. And so to be able to put this out and for people to listen and hear that there's still hope. Let's not give that up.
And we won't give that up, because that means we're releasing our power to somebody else. And we know that power does not go to anybody else. We don't. Yeah. And it's just these conversations. I think it's important because people have to realize, on paper, I am a lot of things. But at the end of the day, I'm still a human being. And I still have emotions just like everybody else. And so these conversations are important because I love these, because I get to talk about me. Yeah. And I think that's the important part.
Exactly. Look, Jennifer, thank you so much. I really appreciate you being here. That's it. You dropped the mic. You dropped the mic. Been dropped. Because look, like I said, we're leaving it on the high note. And thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate your voice.
Absolutely. Thank you.
BIR podcast.
Absolutely. Right. Thank you.
Take care.
Take care. You too.